out of him.
That I love that idea. I don't think it can be completely. I mean, of course, this all has to circle back to Ciampa eventually. And we've talked about how Ciampa's had some fun on social media, being like cheering Johnny on, but they haven't really interacted in the show. So I can't believe it's 100% over. Like Johnny's sort of dark side thing. Like I feel like there's got to be a little more that happens there. But maybe it's shifting away from Aleister. Like I said, it's got to come back to Ciampa. But I feel like this will go on. But NXT, I mean, to their credit, I do like that they can kind of bleed over things a little bit. Even the fact that, and it made sense. Nikki Cross is like the fact that Nikki Cross has been involved in this storyline, and just like there's a lot of like moving parts to it. So yeah. I think that they'll be a little more. But maybe Aleister has to come back for a second exorcism. I don't know.
Can there be a table for three featuring Candice LeRae, Renee, and Brie Bella, and they just talk about husbands who turn heel?
So your husband turned heel,
and but you still have to be on air also.
Yeah.
It's like
we have to deal with that.
People gonna do we turn heel with them? What do we do, girls?
Right.
Lars Sullivan is getting called up. There was that ad that the freak Lars Sullivan is getting called up to one of the brands. We don't know which. I get it, especially with the news that Braun Strowman actually has a legitimate elbow injury and needs surgery.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, so they did that angle on Raw, taking out his arm, and then they were like, his elbow's shattered, and I'm like, bullshit. And then there's like a half truth.
Okay.
So he needs surgery on it, and that sucks. The upside is that his match at TLC is touch and go. They don't know if it's actually going to happen. And I was like, good, because I didn't really want to see Braun versus Baron Corbin in a TLC match at TLC. Like, they were getting the big match.
Yeah.
They were getting, because at TLC, there's a ladder match, there's a table match, and as stupid as it always is, there's a chairs match. And then someone gets a TLC match. Usually that's traditionally how it's done. And they were getting the TLC match. I'm like, that sucks. Like, give it to Daniel Bryan and AJ, or Dean and Seth, or somebody else.
Yeah.
So that could be a blessing in disguise. We want them to get back, but I just the thing with call-ups, and this is something I don't think we actually talked about before. We're always nervous when people get called up, especially since people who have already been called up still haven't found their way and made their mark or gotten the push we've wanted from them. Some never get it. Some get it instantly. Like, some are instant hits. Like, I've always said that if you can do something that entertains the crowd other than wrestling, you're golden, and that's why Elias has stuck around for so long and been such a hit and never had to have a title or really a huge storyline. Like, never really a huge storyline.
Yeah, but then again, and that weird X factor of if you can do something else, but it's like Tyler Breeze, huge in NXT, but then comes to WWE and has nothing until Breezango took off in a way. But yeah, it's just tricky.
The trouble is that in NXT, and this is what we all really like about NXT, is that because it's so old school, badass wrestlers who are kind of monsters or dark characters can just be that. Aleister Black can just be that. The War Raiders can do that, their Viking stuff. They're barbarians, or whatever they are. Lars Sullivan can be the ogre, can be the Uruk-hai orc kind of character. He's huge and badass. When you go up to the main roster, you can't be that. You have to be able to be funny, too. You have to be able to do everything. Like, Braun has to do comedy skits, but then he has to the next week have to be the horrible, imposing monster. Then he has to be the criminal mastermind. Then he has to be you have to do everything. So it's like, the War Raiders won't be able to be called up and just be War Raiders. They're going to have to do fashion files. They're gonna. Yes. That's why the Ascension couldn't come up and just be like, oh, they're really cool. Like, look at the Illuminati imagery and their heavy metal music, and they were so dominant down in NXT. But they can't do that on the main roster because you have to be able to fill in any part of the show at any time. Like, sorry, you were badasses for the past 8 months, but we need a comedy skit tonight. So now you're gonna have to fart, or I don't know, do something. And that's what, like, AOP it's like, yeah, Paul Ellering, you're gone. I mean, Vince thought he looked too old on TV. And to Vince's credit, Vince doesn't even like appearing on TV anymore because he thinks he looks too old. So at least he's using that metric on himself. Yeah. But it's like, let's put him with a comedy character who pees himself.
Yeah.
It's like they can't just be badasses. And that's something we always worry about when the monsters kind of go up to the main roster.
And Braun, it's like Mix Max Challenge. Didn't he dress like an elf last year? Am I remembering correctly?
Yeah, you're right. Well, and it was for like a promotion. It was a promotional video. Like he went around town, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So there's just
it's like you're gonna have to get punched by a turkey, like like Sheamus.
Yeah, even though right,
Big Show's gonna have to fall through a spread of Thanksgiving food. Yeah.
Yeah, even though it's funny because we always hear that Vince also, of course, he's old school in that he likes the big, giant, intimidating guys, and that's why someone like Daniel Bryan has to really in real life fight to find his place, is because Vince. So it's like Lars Sullivan, of course, is going to get called up, get called up away from the times where they call up a bunch of people because he's the perfect type for Vince. But he won't just be able to be scary Lars Sullivan, whose music Trish and I really like because it sounds like it's a horror movie theme a little bit. They'll have to be inevitably. He'll be introduced as a scary monster, but at some point the wackiness will begin. And some people can roll with it, and some people can't, and some people work, and the crowd will respond to doing that, and some people they won't.
If Aleister Black gets called up, I just at least lose the Dutch Destroyer label because it sounds like a toy in Von der Sex.
Yes.
I'm all about Aleister Black and things and giant dicks today, as you can tell.
Yes.
So anything you'd like to add from the live viewing of TakeOver before we move on here? Again, solid show. War Games a bit too long. I think we both and then after you give me your thoughts, we'll break down who we thought, what our predictions actually were, and who won this match, and who owes someone a steak dinner.
I don't have much more to add. It was all great, all fun. Watching some of the stuff in the War Games match, Ricochet, of course, is going to be a fun factor, and then some. Pete Dunne, I thought was really impressive. There was I think it was where Pete Dunne threw Roderick Strong against the cage. He bounced off the cage and into a move from Pete Dunne, grabbed him again and slammed him over. That I thought was really cool. Other than this is kind of leaning into our predictions, but it is again funny that Velveteen and Johnny are at this funny place where they're two of the biggest guys in NXT who keep almost always lose takeovers. I think they've both won one. But that's fine. Rock lost more than he would win for a long time and was still hugely popular. So it's just one of those things where it's like Velveteen and Johnny, it's just if you look at their track record and as far as the results at these takeovers, they're often usually losing, but it doesn't matter as far as their as far as what the crowd's reaction, but also knowing that they're both great at what they do and that they're gonna just put on this great match. Because Velveteen, I was I don't think this is when they're gonna put a belt on him, but the crowd is still completely with it.
Yeah, we both predicted Ciampa, and we both predicted Shayna Baszler retaining. You went with Johnny, and I went with Aleister Black, so I won that one.
Yep.
And then we both picked the good guys to win the War Games because Undisputed Era won last year. So, point for me. But I think that Dream Ciampa match was way better than I thought it would be. Only because I'd never seen. They never really had a wrestling history, so I didn't know what to expect. I knew it would be good, but it was still excellent. It went above and beyond. I still hate Ciampa's music and the fact that Ciampa has music, so it's sort of a two-layered hate. Because
I don't hate his music, but I really hate that he does the heartbeat because it was Taz's, and it's so distinctive as an entrance to the intro to the music.
All of his music, speaking to that, just sounds like it was pieced together. It was sort of Frankenstitched together from other themes, so it sounds so unoriginal and generic and forgettable, basically. I couldn't remember it in my head right now. I've heard it numerous times. I can't recall it easily. I can recall that heartbeat part. Yeah, that part, sure, but the rest of it, no. And, and I like that how Dream's moveset right now, especially in that match at TakeOver, was such a throwback to the 80s stars. You know, he had the whole Hollywood Hogan trolling costume coming out, but he did, like, Hogan moves. He did Macho Man moves. He did the figure four. He did, like, Brett's figure four against the ring post. So he was doing a bunch of old school throwback moves. And TakeOver, great fun. Into Survivor Series, which was such a weird, strange pay-per-view. The concept alone, we've talked about many times, is just doesn't matter. The brand rivalry, it's such a zero-sum, empty storyline that's so...
Yeah.
It's basic. It's almost as quickly forgettable as one of those overseas pay-per-views. You know, like, even though this week they're still talking about that, they're using that trophy at least, the Crown Jewel Best in the World trophy, way more than they did the Greatest Royal Rumble trophy, which got broken.
Yep.
But, so why was anything? I understand, like, somebody tweeted me after the show, like, when it was, like, a clean sweep by Raw, where, confoundingly, they just decided not to count the kickoff match at all. Yes. Where SmackDown won. Like, why didn't that count? Why even have that? Like, I don't understand why that didn't count. I get that it was supposed to be a clean sweep because part of the storyline was Baron Corbin promised there would be. But but just don't do that story. Just be like, if Raw wins...
Or have SmackDown lose the tag team thing, too, if it's... Yeah, it was weird.
Have them lose that, too. Have it be a full clean sweep. Or just say, have Braun promise, I promise Raw will win tonight in points. And then if I do, you make me GM, and that's all you had to do. Because why did Seth have to go over Shinsuke? Why did AOP have to go over the Bar? Like, there were matches that, because they didn't matter... You could have easily made it a much more exciting show if anyone out there cared about, like, who won overall. Why kill everyone halfway through watching it saying, oh, Raw's already won? Like, even if SmackDown wins the final two matches, it doesn't matter. So right. I am stretching here in presuming that anyone actually really did care which brand won. But if someone did, why kill that?
Yeah, it's weird. We'll talk more about we already mentioned it's like the fact that on SmackDown, the show where it should have the most impact, where it should be like, you'd think it would be like Shane and Paige opening in like a remorseful mood or something. But it seemed like everyone was kind of like, oh well, like,
they didn't care.
They didn't seem to care that they had this crushing defeat. Because I was like, well. This is, the fact that they lost so bad, I was like, well, this is interesting because we know that next fall SmackDown's going to get more attention than it's ever gotten when it moves to Fox. And they will not want the show to be perceived in real life. They will not want the show to be perceived as the B show or the show you can skip. And so I just thought, oh, maybe this is like the beginning of something because they're aiming towards that Fox thing. But then, no, it didn't seem like it mattered at all. It only mattered on Raw for Baron Corbin. It wasn't even like Team Raw's like, yeah, we did it. I guess Stephanie gloated too. But on the fact that on SmackDown it had so little importance is what really stood out to me, because that's where it should have been like, oh, everyone's down in the dumps and we need to come back from this. And it just
everyone was way too depressed and they needed a 7-second dance break and then everyone was better.
Right.
They should have done.
Hold open.
I think, but then even then, Stephanie changed the deal completely.
Yeah.
Because then she's like,
you're right. Him.
I did promise that, but here's what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that all back and say you still have to beat Braun at a match.
Yeah.
And Braun, once again, I brought this up back when they announced that he would get his rematch for the title at Crown Jewel. He's so patient. He's such a patient monster, Eric. As long as you tell him he can have a rematch, even if it's like months away, he's like, cool. Like he never needs someone right now. I'll just give him a date. Hey, you can have Baron Corbin at TLC. Great. You can have your rematch against Brock and Roman at Crown Jewel over a month away. Wonderful.
Right.
He's very accommodating.